So I'm just hearing like the freakiest thumps around, and I'm like, if that's a possum on the roof or something, it's sure making a lot of noise. I thought it was the other person in the house, and I was like, is that them thumping around? And I was like, must be like the clumsiest possum ever. Because seriously, there was like a lot of thumps and bumps. It sounded like though someone was walking around the house and then having trouble in the bathroom, and I was like, that sounds kind of freaky. And then I checked, you know, checked if the other person was up, and they're tucked in bed asleep, and I'm like, that's freaky. Because we're all I hear something gnawing underneath the floorboards too, and I'm like, we're all just separated from the outside by a few planks of wood, and some of the wood's damaged, and you're thinking, and sound just echoes in old houses like these, in wood houses, and you're just going, I wish I could just move, and it's not even cyclone. This is probably just like possums on the roof, and see, that sound is probably a possum. It sounds like it's underneath the floorboards. Having a good old time. In some houses though, if you got crocodiles can just uplift floorboards. They just slam their noses into the floorboards, and they totally uproot the floorboards to get into the house to, threaten everything inside, and you're like going, these aren't strong houses. They're really weak houses in general, which is why only relatively poor people buy wood houses usually, because they're cheap, but they don't have a lot of the fancy dressings of a modern house, and I'm just thinking how thin everything is, like how weak everything is. But I did feel like someone was walking through the house and slamming around. I just woke up from a dream, and it's like the dream was all about me protesting on a video against racism, and the fact that, and it was like this whole collaboration video that was tainted because the film, which was on a USB, was dropped in someone's tears that they had wept, and had corrupted the video a little bit. But it was a really interesting collaboration. It had like Armageddon music, you know, bridging the video to make it more passionate, I guess. And see, that's a freaking possum. But that's not the sound that I was hearing before. I was hearing like literally it sounded like someone was walking and stumbling around in the bathroom. I'm like, is that the ceiling or is that? Anyway, back to the video. Yeah, I had woken up from that dream and literally like there's like this weird nasty ghost with a rifle pointed at me, and it's like in a semi-conscious state, like thinking, oh, that's a nasty sort of figure. And and they had the gun pointed at me because the passionate music and stuff was a bit above, not a bit above, but it was like annoyed that I was dreaming something so passionate, and I was like thinking, what a nasty little figure. If that came from Mum, I wouldn't want to leave, and if it came from the house, I wouldn't mind leaving. I wake up and I was like, had to turn on the light, and I had to walk around, go to the bathroom and stuff, freshen up to feel a little bit better over having such a nasty, semi-conscious, observation. That I was like, if that's from my parent, I don't want to live with them anymore. If that's from the house, I don't want to live in here anymore. No. And it does sound like there's an active possum underneath the floorboards sounds like it's trying to gnaw itself in. As long as it's a possum, not anything else, that's fine, because possums don't do that much damage, really. But they're noisy little critters. Around here, they're a bit noisy. I generally don't mind noise. It's just it's a new house and you're still getting used to it, I guess. But I don't want to live here, And I don't want to live here because, well, it's really the cyclones. That's the freakiest thing about this house. Once this house will be done up, it'll look so good, but it'll all go to waste because there's going to be cyclones sometime. But I don't think there's any trees overhanging over the house. Anyway, I just wake up and I usually keep the light on for a couple of hours when I've been freaked out by waking up. So see, dumb possum. That sounds like a possum. It sounds like it's underneath the floorboards or something. I'm like going annoying. At least, but if I had recorded like a few minutes before I turned the phone on, I'd be like, it really did sound like someone was like creeping through the house. I'm like, don't tell me this place is haunted or something. But before tonight, it was a relatively pleasant stay. I slept better than the cottage. But this place also has its smells, and the water isn't clean yet. I don't really like the water. I haven't really drunk any tea. And I usually religiously drink tea because it's good for my gut. And I just don't want to touch the water until it's all been approved that it's good water. And I want filters on new taps. It's like, none of that's there yet. So I'm drinking bottled water for now. But I was going to check on my phone tonight while I'm awake and thinking this place is a little noisy to see if I can get in any inspections for next Tuesday, because I'll go see an inspection because next Tuesday we'll be back in the city, and it'd be good to do an inspection then. But in reflection, I really hate old houses. I always dreamed of having a new house built for me. And I have built new houses all over the place. No, I haven't. I bought I think I had one on the Gold Coast, had one on Wheelers Hill, which is a good one. They were trying to do better than the architect had known about my bad construction on the Gold Coast, and they were like, we're gonna do everything perfect so that you have a real home to live in. And if I had that one first, I'd probably be living the dream because it wasn't very expensive. And it had pool, it was a townhouse, had even a front garden, which I hadn't anticipated, and it was a really good house. And I think I got rid of it because of cyclone. But I seem to think that I had built that house. What other new house did I have? I did buy another $2 million mansion in East Melbourne, but I think that was already there. I don't think I built that one, but I could have. Could have built it. Yeah, it sounds like I might have built it because I remember thinking about the pool. But I had a suddenly flash job all of a sudden, but the job promised to last 10 years. I was like, ooh, let's buy myself a really expensive house. And it only lasted a month or something. And I was like, what do you mean you're not going to see through my contract? I had a 10-year contract or something, and they pulled it. At first, they demanded that I get with the team by being a team player. And then they said, you're not really fitting in with the team. I don't know how I didn't lawsuit that. It sounds directly like I should have, but if I did, I probably didn't win. But it should be, because that's a big no to say, oh, if you sleep around, you'll get this job, or cement it. And then oh, sorry, we don't like that we, slept with you or seen you naked, and we don't wanna. No, they didn't go through with it. They just dumped they didn't like the look of me without clothes, and they were like, said they didn't want me part of the team or whatever, and I'm like, big con. But it was probably like a he said, she said scenario, I guess. Need more proof. Anyway, I was gonna look on the real estate ad. I really want to be approved for this house, this rental. I know I hate rentals, but I only need to rent for 6 months. And if my job stays, I can buy a house. That possum's so loud and chewy. It sounds like a possum. I was just thinking, I wouldn't mind it being a bunny. Anyway, I do recall living on Wheelers Hill. It was a community, and I had to knock on the door, and I was like, you have to be in a relationship to live here. You have to be like married and stuff. And I ended up being given someone to live with, like a toy boy sort of thing. And all they did was sit on the couch, seriously, and sometimes swim in the pool. And they were like, you can live with this guy. He's really hot and cute, which he was. And you can do whatever with him, and have a relationship with him and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, just to get the general community off my back, because they like insisted that it's for families and people living together only. And you're like, you can't live here unless you have family, and this is good as family. You just have to plunk him down in front of the TV and watch TV. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I lived with this total stranger who was like very hot and attractive, but for like months, until I think the house clashed with a cyclone. And I'm not sure if I was house insured or what, but whether I was just scared of the cyclone. But anyway, I must have sold the house or whatever. And I think I gave that toy boy some of my things, so they ran off happy. They're like, can I have your TV? And I'm like, sure. Well, I don't have any of that stuff now. Like, I don't think. I must have either sold it or given it away to the guy, or kept it with the house in the sale. I don't know. But I must have sold it. I wouldn't have just walked away from it. I mean, I have a threshold on what I can buy, and usually when clearing houses and storms come up. It's like, yeah, you can't afford it. Your 250 house insurance just went up to $2,000 a week. And I'm like, who the hell, who earns $2,000 a week except a movie star? And I've done the modeling thing. It's like, no one wants to make me a movie star. And I'm like, how on earth is someone like me gonna pay $2,000 a week for house insurance? And they're like, I don't care, you just pay it, The insurance goes up and down, and in the future, after a year, it might go down again, and you're like, hey, that would pay $2,000 a week. and income, they're just like, $1,800 a week at best, and you're like going, no one. Actually, at the moment, if I worked 10 hours a day, I'd be earning probably around $4,000 a month. But I'm not doing 10 hours a day like I want to, because I'm living with other people who think that 10 hours a day is kind of freaky and weird, and they don't want me to do 10 hours a day. So I've got my 8 hours. I've got my 8 hours going on right now. But next week I'm only doing 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 6 hours a day. And then the 8 hours on the Saturday, because I'm like, I don't know why, I just thought I would do that. But the week after I might do 8 hours a day, 6 days. No, I'm doing 5 days next week, because I'm taking Tuesday off. No, I'm doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days. Because Monday's a public holiday, and I'm taking Tuesday off to go venturing around in the city, maybe get a flu shot, maybe see a rental and stuff. So like tonight I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind not living here. Leave, now that my parents settled, leave her to do up this house and go live somewhere I want to live. Ideally, I want this little rental, but there are townhouses going to be available after this month. March, April, May, June, yeah. In June, they're available. Well, one of them is, the other's available in like July. And if I apply for them, that would be good. And then I've stayed here a reasonable amount of time, and to like think that moving things back and forth isn't ridiculous. No, I only moved here because there was a deadline on the other house, and I'm like, oh, it's a deadline, I still don't have a rental. And they're like, just move everything out there and we'll move it back, and when you get a rental or whatever. But I do want to move somewhere close to normal world. Because all there has to be is a cyclone here, and I'm like having the worst time, and all my furniture will be put into splinters. But this is the safer room, because I've lived in this room before, and you just put a mattress against there, and a mattress against the other window, and the cyclone might not do that much damage to this room. I mean, it might, but it might not too. But at the moment, everything's like warped, and it's like, to me, it just looks like this place has just been punished by weather, and then just it's still standing, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably what's happened. Why everything's distorted and doors don't close properly, because the warping, is the house is probably lopsided from meeting bad weather, and I'm like going, yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't mind just venturing off, leaving my parent to this house. I mean, I don't want to be the blame of leaving them alone, but it's their choice. If they want to live in a country house, if it's their choice, and if they're not physically up for it, they shouldn't have moved out here. You know, because I know my parents, like, they fumble around all the time. They take these vitamins because sometimes the legs have cramps and problems, and they're fumbling around in the middle of the night. And I'm like thinking, I don't think you should be moving to the country where you might meet something wild while you're feeling kind of like old. Like sometimes I look at them and it looks like their whole face wants to drop physically and have them merge into a really old looking person. Like most of the time they don't look so bad, but sometimes when I'm looking at their face, I'm like, it just looks like there's a really old person just merging. And I'm like, ew. Imagine if you turn into a really old looking person all of a sudden. That would freak me out. Even I think I'm turning, I seem to think my hairline's looking a little bit weird, like the peak of my hairline looks like my hair's like coming out or something. And I'm like, going, ooh, am I getting older? Like on video chats and things, I look so weird, but when I take a picture of myself, I can look normal, but on video chats, I look so old and ugly. It's like, oh, sorry, all I am is like a weird face that doesn't photograph well and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what's really going on with it. Like had this message saying, this hair dandruff ad, is available to do. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I don't know if my face can shoot angles and look good, So I'm like going, I don't know about my face, but I wouldn't mind trying out for the commercial. I tried out for it previously. Previously, it's like, I'm really overweight right now, so I'm like, I'm not sure if I should, but the modeling industry is pretty mean, because they pretend like they can gloss people up, but they don't like to gloss people up. They like to have the perfect thing in front of them, and when you're not perfect, everyone's like going, we don't want you. I think it used to gloss people up. I mean, obviously it did, because old Hollywood used to just, help people have perfect teeth and perfect skin, but now it's like you're just supposed to walk in and look like the star, You're not supposed to like be glossed up and have techniques used to make an average looking person look flawless and pretty, so they don't like to do that anymore. And you're like going, they don't even like to use makeup very much, and you're like going, that sucks. They won't venture to find your best angle. They'll just be like, oh, you're not shooting well, It's like, it's so in your face. And they're like, well, that's how you know you get the better product for the thing. So you're like going, that sucks, So I'm sort of nervous entering any kind of modeling, because my face really has a very severe distortion. And I'm like, at angles I probably look like a monster. Because it's just not a very attractive face, unfortunately. I keep thinking if I push myself to lose some weight, maybe it'll trim my face up and I'll get angles again, but at the moment. Just got this hideous blobby face that doesn't do angles very well, and you're like needing probably the camera back. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'll come looking off on screen as big face and flat hair sort of thing. That's what I used to look like even when I was thinner, but now it's like big blobby face with double chin. Looking horrible. But while I was thinking about double chin, I was sort of having these memories of things that had happened in the past, and I was like, I was in a relationship with someone, and they just didn't fit me very well, and they gave me a blobby face after I think they forced me to do something, and then I ended up with a blobby face which was sort of fixed up, and I was like, oh, you ruined my face, and then it was fixed up so that I thought, oh, so I might not be like a fat chick underneath, I might just have a blobby face because someone's bad sex made me blobby, and I had to have like someone do magic to make my face firm again, and I was like, that's a far off memory, but I'm pretty sure that happened. I've forgotten a lot of things about my life. It's like I've lived like several stages of life, and at every stage I've rolled over and forgotten about the previous one, like, and then I remember it, and I'm like astounded that I've forgotten these things, and I'm like, oh, I think this happened, and I think that happened, and wait, I don't have this quite accurately. And it's like, even just remembering stuff on the Gold Coast, I was like put under abuse by staff at a park there, and I was like, I've totally forgot that. And after living in Melbourne for a long time, I totally forgot that happened. And then I came back up here, and the first thing I want to do is go visit one of their parks, and I was like, oh wait, I'm having a memory. I was like thinking, how can I forget that? Because I remembered it when I saw this theme park ad in the cinemas in Melbourne, and I was like, thinking, a few caustic thoughts while I was looking at this cinematic ad. I mean, I do watch the ads in the cinema, and I was like thinking, well, number one, I was thinking, oh, so you got a special now that I'm not able to go to the theme park, because they only sometimes do those $50 specials, and you feel cheated when you're paying like $200 for an annual ticket when they have specials on annual tickets sometimes for $50. You're like going, I wanted a $50 ticket, but anyway, yeah, and after a while, I totally forgot about all that stuff. And then I came up here and I wanted to go to a theme park, and I was like, oh wait, I'm having a memory. Like, I wasn't treated so well ages ago. And, it's like I totally forgot, seriously. And this relationship with this person is something that I was supposed to forget, because I was getting quite notorious for having numerous marriages and relationships with high profile people, and the government sort of kidnapped everyone and forced us into this meeting, and they questioned heatedly over what was going on, and you're like, I was put under a lot of abuse. Everyone felt free to like go down you over a simple thing as a relationship. I mean, if one doesn't work out, why don't you have permission to be able to do. I mean, a lot of people date like every day and every week, and you're like, what gives, you know? I'm just dating people I meet, and if they want me to marry them or we want to marry each other, we've been married, and they're like, they were going down on me. They were not just being racist, but they were being horrible, and they didn't really have a very firm point. And an astounding, like 7 marriages or whatever, 6 marriages, I forget the number, isn't 6 or 7 relationships isn't an astounding amount of relationships. But because people were, most of them were very quite good looking, most of them were even had been famous or were famous, and you're like going, in the normal world, everyone's just normal, and they're just blowing up a big deal about something that isn't a big deal, and you're like going, but it's a very mean tactic to try and divert someone's success, not just with modeling, but with personal relationships, to stamp on that and say, so you're not allowed these relationships, you're not good enough for them, and we don't know what to think about this. It's very mean. I mean, they said they went against me being able to get money from doing a movie, to make a weak claim of not just abuse, but being with people who seemed older and stuff, to make some weak claim. And they were like, oh, pity your parents who are overwhelmed with distress over what's going on. You skipping through relationships, traveling all over the world to do modeling and stuff. And they were like, think of your parents and what they feel. And obviously my parents are blind with fury and jealousy, and they're claiming, oh, I'm shamed with what you're doing and stuff. And if I were, and before we were taken to this place, my parent thought I was just walking in and out of the building, disappearing for a few weeks with friends, and I was like traveling the world. And when I was at home, they were yelling at me, putting me under some abuse, or wanting to put me under physical abuse for being a lousy nobody who wasn't doing anything with their lives. And so, they're crying and saying, oh, pity me, and seeing negative in something that's a success, And they're like, the government's like, oh, think about your parents, I had to pay $2 million, right, to get my parent, who doesn't really like me, or didn't like me at the time anyways, out of some kind of abduction. And it's like, oh, what? So I just get $2 million, and you suddenly get abducted by people who want my $2 million, And they're like, and pay you $2 million. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna pay $2 million. And so the people, they got with the banks, and they stole my $2 million. And I'm like, what the gives? I had $2 million in my bank account, and they stole it. And then it went to a court issue, and the court said, why wouldn't you give people your $2 million to get your dad out of an abduction, And I'm like, do you have no soul? They were like, do you have no soul in a court? I was like, well, my point is I have $2 million. I'm not wanting to use it to get my parent out of some weird abduction. I mean, I have 4 other family members who can help to pay for $2 million. Why should I have to spend all my $2 million to get them out of the abduction and stuff? And then we're like, do you have no soul? And then they confirmed that to pay the bounty of $2 million to get my dad freed, like, into court, so I had to pay it, you know. I mean, I don't remember very clearly, but it was like so unfair. Unless I did get back my $2 million and said screw on my parent. He wasn't treating me very well at the time. But anyway, I had this memories of this thing, and I was like treated very badly, and so was everyone else. And I was like, they put me on a drug to see another side of my personality, because they were like, we're not convinced that you like anyone. And so instead of talking, they put me on a drug so I would talk off my head over what I think about everyone. And and then I was like, yeah, I ended up being like, and I was being told very firmly, go back home with my parent. And they even like allowed them to, like, yeah, it was a really rape fest, really. I was like, was having sex with everyone. And I was like, including like your parent, like, ooh, wait, you put me on a drug just to have sex with everyone. I was like, but at the time I was having heart attacks quite a bit. I'd had like 4, and at that meeting I'd had like another one. One of my heart attacks were the reason why I got married to one person, because literally, like, it was like a heart attack. Then I got a drug to sort of overcome health problems, after this meeting. There was another one, I think, and I got given the choice of perfect health or perfect being able to live through things. And I got half the drug, and then my parent was like, give me that. And my parent put them in the other portion of it in their arm, and they're like, oh, they're like, that wasn't for you. They're not the little celebrity either of the moment, and like yesterday's has been, and it was a little bit of a deal, but no, they got a kick out of it. But yeah, but then we had a memory thing to wipe everyone's memories, because the government were like, this is all just one big mess. Let's just forget about it. Let's say this never happened. You were never a star. You were never in relationships. You were never married. And they put everyone like in a memory wipe drug. So everyone wanted to like just have no memory of it. And I'm like, well, I'm having memories of it now. And it's like, anyway, I don't remember very well, but I'm sort of remembering that. And I was like, I don't know why I remember things all of a sudden, but I remembered. I'm like, oh, I think this happened and that happened. Because I was meeting famous people, because I was accidentally tripped on a movie set when I was lost in South America. And I was like, oh, excuse me, can I get help from your star? Because I'd met so-and-so when in a modeling agency, and so I sort of wanted to talk to them and see if they could help me out, and they said, yeah, I can help you out, but I ended up being part of the movie, and then I ended up being transferred from one thing to another, and that's how I ended up being with like 3 or 4 different people, and in a movie, you know, and it was famously with making out with someone on a helicopter or plane or something. And I was like, which I was pushed out of after dispute, and it was all recorded as part of this movie, and I was like, and then they showed it on a screen, on this public-private screening of, and I was like, oh, you know, it had me threaded through everything, and it was like this big action-packed movie, like just a draft version of it, and everyone's like, what do you think? And everyone's like cheering, going, oh, I can't believe you did all that, and it's like they were sort of trying to congratulate me, but everyone's sort of stiff on the edges when talking to me. I was like, oh, you know. So that was a private premiere, and everyone was like, oh, so you agreed to want to make this movie and stuff, and it's like, they thought it was awesome, and then everyone cooled down about the movie when they realized no one wanted to actually pay me anything, and but I think, was that where I got the $2 million from, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. I think it was like $2.5 million actually. But yeah, no, I was thinking about applying for, if I can apply for that hair ad, I was thinking about applying for it. But it probably won't work out. I'll probably be like told, get off the set, because my face isn't working out, my hair isn't working out, my body type probably not working out. But yeah, if I do branch out on my own, I'm thinking about going to more concerts, so look out particular concerts. But I haven't hardly been to any in Brisbane except the dance theatre, concerts at the dance theatre, but I can't go to concerts anyways until the end of the year when they expect the COVID stuff to be lifted up, the COVID restrictions, and then I'll be like, oh, I should go to concerts and things now. Now that I'm on the street and looking for something to do. You know me in concerts, I've been to like a few, and I usually get pulled out of them, like I get told to leave them. But I've had weird debuts at different singers' concerts, and I'm like, I just have to like hook up with the concert, and I'm like probably gonna get busted because I get into trouble for attending concerts and stuff. So I get hit on by the singer, I get to meet the singer, and they're like, you shouldn't be here. I went to a Mariah Carey concert once, and it was like, oh, sorry, you're not allowed to be here, you know, sort of thing. I think I went to a Celine Dion concert, and no, that was fine. I think I went to a Justin Bieber concert, and that was whacked out. That was like, when I sat at the back, it was fine, but when in the pit, you know, they asked me on stage, and and Justin Bieber gets like shirtless, and stuff, and it's like he has a really tight body, and it's like, oh, touch my body and everything, and stuff, and it's like my first concert, like he pulled me up on stage, and it's like, oh, touch my body, and I can touch your body, and we can do like, I'm gonna like gyrate all over you and stuff, and I was like, and I had a boyfriend at the time. I'd gone with a boyfriend who idolizes, Justin Bieber. And he's like, oh, he's like a god to me. He's the best, my inspiration for wanting to be a singer, And I was like, oh, Justin Bieber. I never really thought of him as much of a singer. And he pulled me to the concert. And Justin Bieber was like looking at the crowd. And he was like, pointing at me to come up on stage. And I was like dragged up on stage. And then he was like, touch my body and let me do sexual movements, like literally like behind, front, side, all over, twirling around in a circle sort of thing. And I was like, oh wait, I've got like a boyfriend down there. And and I got into trouble for being the pick of that concert, because of course I ended up meeting, yeah, but literally I think I went twice with the same guy. They were like, as soon as we got home, because we were living together at the time, they were like, oh, we have to go back. I want to see if he wants to do anything else with you. And we went back. And he got me up on stage again, and it's like even more sexually orientated than the previous one, I think, or something. And he's way more skeezy than what I would have expected. And then, yeah, it's like I didn't expect him to be like a sexual god or something, someone who seeks sexual activities, or sexually orientated things. I didn't think he'd be like that. And then he's like, oh, the 2 times he asked me out, he's like got his hands all over me, and totally touching me everywhere. And after getting me to touch his body, his naked body, and it's like he's doing all this while singing and everything. And it's like, I don't remember the song that he was singing, but it was really full on. And I was like, at one of the instances I got to walk off the stage, but another one he chucked me off the stage, and I was caught by the crowd, and it was like really weird. And yeah. So I'm really asking for it if I go to a Justin Bieber concert just to see him. But yeah. I don't know, I haven't been to a concert in ages. I feel like, I know, I usually feel like I need to wear a wig or something, but I know, I was thinking if I do branch out in a rental, I might go to one. But I don't like the concert halls here, because it's like, if it were Melbourne, it'd be a different story, because Melbourne's got a really excellent concert place that you can go to. But up here it's like ages away. You have to travel and you have to get a train, then a bus, and then you don't know, it's bigger and you don't know what's where, and yeah, so I don't like to go to the Brisbane one. I go to the Brisbane Dance Theatre, but I don't go to the Brisbane Concert Hall. And I'm like, I don't want to go to that concert hall, it's far away. But maybe if I'm living on my own, I'll get a lease for life and go, oh, let's do something weird and go to the concert, you know. Anyway, I better get some sleep. It's been like an hour, it's probably like 4 o'clock. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those sounds were from possums, so. So I'd better get some sleep so I can work in the morning. Got a 10 a.m. start.